Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Scouted on the Cannon Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are looking at Matheus Cunha. I'm here in a shirt with my very good friend, George VAFC. We just looked at an hour worth of clips of Matheus Cunha. So if you want to go check that out, you can do so from the link in the description on Patreon on a 7-day free trial if you want to check it out for free, or you can sign up as a YouTube member. We'd love to have you there. But otherwise, we're here to talk data, here to talk tactics, here to talk the profile, all about Matheus Cunha. So let's get into it. Cunha is 25, obviously plays for Wolves. He's been around. He was at the German club I was trying to remember earlier was Leipzig, and he's also been at Hertha. He's been at Atletico, went on loan to Wolves in 2023, and obviously he's kind of, I guess, had his big break in the football world there. Started playing for Brazil in 2021. Contract ends in 2027, and there's been some pretty good links to Arsenal in the last couple of weeks from various publications, the Times, the Telegraph and stuff. Pretty reliable people. Nothing from the Oracle Ornstein yet, but we will wait and see. Although I think the Athletic did say we're monitoring Cunha. I think it's pretty undoubted that Mikel likes the players. We'll get into in terms of in the profile. As we say, we just had a look at the clips. There's a lot to like here. So let's focus on the positives first, George. What is the overall positives on Matheus Cunha, the headlines?
Yeah, Matheus Cunha is the dribble before the goal. May not be the pass before the goal, but he's the dribble before the goal. And he's somebody that I think creates space brilliantly in tight spaces. Has a really good base, but we've joked a lot about this in the hour. He uses his bum to good effect. He uses his bunda brilliantly. And I joke, but the way that when you watch him, he creates space much less from a physical push off or anything like that. He does use his bum to really effectively create space. And he moves people in that way, especially deeper in midfield. I think he also has a brilliant ability to spot runners. And he's very creative and very willing to release the ball in the final third. Obviously got great technique in terms of being able to retain and recycle quite well. But I think his superpower will be in terms of spotting runs. And if you are to create a small space game, Matheus Cunha will thrive. So if you keep passes within 5 yards, 10 yards, that dialogue with the midfield is brilliant. Other stuff we'll get into are things that he can improve on. But as far as those things go, and the one thing that I can't not end on is why he's overperformed XG for so much and why he's on such a hot streak. His shot placement's brilliant. His balance is really, really top when he's striking the ball. I don't think he's got any superstar technique necessarily. It's more about how stable he is when creating the shot and then his placement. It's all R1, so to speak. It's all very much, he can see where the keeper is and he makes the right decision about where to go quite often. His shot taking can be erratic, and it can be something where he takes a shot out of nothing and you're saying, why are you shooting from there? But he's a chance taker. He's a risk taker in the final third. And he also has a brilliant technique off dead ball situations, not just in as far as the corners. I think even free kicks, he's really deadly off free kicks as well. So a lot of stuff to like. There's some things that we can improve on, and maybe some questions on if he's worth potentially £60 million.
Yeah, we'll come on to that a little bit later. We'll stick on the sort of positives for now. I think the bravery that we're trying to add to this team is 100% there. His quality out of possession, I think, was something that I was really impressed by in terms of the intensity, sort of doubling back on the left-hand side. I think also we were sort of talking a little bit more theoretically about where he could play for Arsenal. While we have concerns, there is a possibility and a feasibility that he is a sort of a key for Martinelli in certain senses, in terms of that sort of output to Martinelli, allowing Martinelli to be a bit more free. If he was playing on that left-hand side with him, I think that could really work. I think I would just want to sort of emphasize the stable base, and I think it's that ability to get your body in front of people, to sort of, I don't know, create that sort of moment for yourself where you just like, you jump in, it's almost like in a Declan Rice sense, and just that ability to approach duels and just deal with them really, really well. This is like the idea that Mikel wouldn't be looking at this player, I think is really fanciful. Let's look at the data then before we move forward. yeah, as you were mentioning, his efficiency is unbelievable. I think I read out a stat on the clips. He's ahead of Solanke and Haaland and Saka and Gordon or whatever in terms of goal conversion. And this is compared to attacking midfielders and wingers. He's in the 94th percentile for goals and assists, 96th percentile for non-penalty goals. He's a real threat for Wolves. Again, he's the main character there, and that's a larger conversation. But also in terms of the non-penalty XG. You see a bit of an overperformance in the shooting. I mean, you sort of mentioned it earlier in terms of his shooting, but the placement is really, really nice. He just has that sort of ability within the box. It's kind of, we were sort of talking about him as a false nine, but it is kind of poachy, some of his movement in the box, his anticipation of where things are going to land. It's really, really smart. He's great in that sense. And yeah, you can see a lot of the numbers there in terms of goals and shots are really, really good. Coming on to passes, you mentioned the through passing thing. I don't know if you want to sort of come onto this here, but in terms of where Wolves play and how they play, a lot of the situations they find themselves in are on the transition, which is a bit of a feasibility or a translation concern to Arsenal, I would say. In terms of the situations we find ourselves in, we'll come on to this on the tactics board, but how do you think this data sort of relates to that?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest scouting quirks, I think, that because he's got such great technique, people just assume he's brilliant at it. It's the one part of his dialogue with the midfield that he does struggle with. And he'll spot the runs brilliantly, and he'll spot the pass brilliantly, and he'll have enough bravery to release and have the technique to do that. But it's inconsistent. His through balls are very inconsistent, and you'll notice quite a bit. He almost plays the player, not the space. So he'll just play to get the ball to the player, and A, it doesn't always reach him, but B, sometimes it's overcooked, sometimes it's under hit. It's inconsistent, but he spots the run, which is brilliant. And I think it's also why passes into the final third, ironically, is one of the best things that you'll see on the passes, because that's a lot about risk taking. In the final third, are you brave enough to take the risk that people aren't to unlock the pick? And he is. The problem is that pass may not always get to a player. That pass may not always result in a threatening action, because the pass will get, again, to the player, not to the space that the player may need. And so a lot of times you'll find with Matheus Cunha, he does a brilliant job creating, shimmying, create space, and then bang, when he releases it for a through ball, it's under hit. It's to a player. The move breaks down. He's got to do a little bit better in terms of his pace of pass there.
Yeah. In terms of completed passes in the final third, I'd be curious to see how that data looks differently.
Have a look at his passes from free kicks. That's something, again, that we were talking about above a little bit, and it's really top. Not just corner kicks, but even his passes from free kicks. Like, his dead ball quality is incredible.
Yeah, you can see the shot creating action. I think he's very good at drawing. I think there was a clip of him that against Man United that we looked at in terms of drawing fouls and stuff in that kind of Grealish way. I think there's quality there. And as you were sort of saying, as we sort of come through the defensive numbers, tackles in the defensive third, I think we sort of see his contribution there. It is always that balance. And when we're trying to find a bit more bravery and impetus in the final third in our team, it's always that balance between being too brave and not being brave enough. And I think this is a kind of a perennial issue for Arsenal that we do tend to struggle with. I do, again, just want to highlight, as we're looking at the data here, the quality out of possession as well. I really don't worry about Cunha out of possession at all. I think you can sort of see that. And obviously the carry numbers look good as well. Coming down into fouls, interceptions, etc. Just finally, in the air, I think we were concerned.
Yeah, he's just average. I mean, he's not going to move trees. He's not going to move people. If the ball's flighted to him, he'll have the presence of mind to direct it on goal. But this isn't a player that I think you're going to look at and say that's a dominant presence in the air. Yeah, he'll compete,
and that's probably probably a good place to kind of start to talk about feasibility in terms of how he would fit in at Arsenal. I suppose maybe we could look at the tactics board for this. Yeah. My concern for Cunha, I think he's a brilliant player. And he's a sort of player that you look at on a clip and you go, oh my God, get this guy on my team now. Because the quality, the flicks and tricks, he's very Brazilian in his play. And sometimes that gets given to Brazilian players unfairly. He's very Brazilian at what he does. I do Yeah, I think that the tactical issues that he solves, my meta question with him, the tactical issues that he solves are not the tactical issues that Arsenal have. I think he's absolutely brilliant in terms of moving the ball up to the penalty box, in terms of coming into the midfield, receiving those short passes as you're referring to. But as we look at the tactics board now, I just don't know for £60 million whether he solves the issues that we all are sat here, probably viewers of the Cannon podcast or whatever, you sat there at home going, Arsenal are having transitional issues, maybe the box efficiency, partly, but we don't have an issue getting the ball to the edge of the box. That is not our issue. There's other issues. So talk us through this.
Yeah. So with Cunha, that false nine kind of idea is something that he's going to thrive off of. He really does like to drop in to kind of these zones to create. And you can maybe see a potential with Kai Havertz in midfield popping up, but doing striker things, essentially. And Cunha, who's a striker, doing midfield things. Definitely could see that. The overlap with Jesus, I'm not in love with. These are both players that I think will struggle to create dynamic distance here. So, should we just touch on the running? Sorry to cut you off. Should we just touch on the running power quickly as well? Because I think that's maybe a thing we didn't necessarily talk about. Yeah, it's something that he'll struggle with. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, because really you'll need a really big presence on the outside here to stay and keep the width. Because if you're asking for Calafiori to come on the inside and do one of these things, which he does do, and have Kai Havertz top in kind of his striker zone, I think Cunha is serviceable, but he's not great in these areas, and he's not going to carry on the outside. Cunha can't do that. He's not got the running power to do it. So really, you're looking at Calafiori to do that. And then when you're in these zones, it's really, again, I struggle where to put him, because I really think Kai Havertz will have to play in midfield for him to function as a false nine. But again, we've got Jesus. There's a lot of redundancy there between him and Trossard even. Like, all three of these players want to do the pseudo 10 role with Calafiori on the overlap, right? That's what they all want to do. In terms of some other ways that we could use him, though, so Matheus Cunha could be the left winger, and you've got this Kai Havertz, and you've got kind of Mikel Merino thing happening here. This could work well. The only thing is, again, you're gonna have to have a Calafiori overlap or a Mikel Merino underlap, but you get Cunha close to Kai Havertz, he can create. And he does Jesus things better than Jesus in the current physical standard. I think Cunha, in terms of arriving in the box, so if Kai Havertz can maybe peel, but you're asking Cunha to arrive as a third man runner after maybe a Calafiori cutback from here, and you're getting the ball into these zones, his shot placement is going to be brilliant. And his kind of third man running is going to be really impressive. But again, the one thing is you're going to have to create space for this type of player, because I think from a little and large perspective, this looks nice. Cunha, Havertz, and as far as the press goes, by the way, get everybody back into their 4-4-2 block. You're talking about a player that, in my opinion, is going to do well in terms of his role. So I think he'll do his job very diligently here. Has no problem operating in a low block. The only, again, problem is going to be some redundancy things. I think as we're looking long term as well, we would look towards him to solve some of those false nine premises. But I look at things like, how does he function with an Ethan Nwaneri in the team and that flexibility? How does he function with Trossard and Jesus? He does better than Trossard and Jesus at the things that they do great. Is that worth £60 million? That's a lot of asking for me. And he is like the definition of a tease, a scout, where on comps, people are going to say it's brilliant. But in terms of him actually digging deep, in terms of being a difference maker at a top club fighting for challenges, he's not going to do that. He'll be a brilliant depth piece. Again, are Arsenal after depth? Are they after changing who they are in attack? Like, we're looking at transitional inevitability, box presence. He'll add box efficiency. He'll do some of the things we lack. He'll be brave in the final third. He'll receive in pockets and he'll play the pass. Will the pass hit the man? No. It'll be inconsistent. It's the definition of, flirting at the bar and the girl goes home with her friends and doesn't give you her number.
What do we say? Right time, wrong girl. I think that's kind of it's kind of how he feels, because we all want this impetus in this signing, but I have to say, probably on balance, I don't think it's Cunha. And I think the reason why, you kind of covered it. I just like, when I think, if I could build the perfect player to join our attack, if we could sit here and be like, right, this player doesn't have to exist, let's just build him. He would probably be frankly, a little bit taller. I think he would burst in a different way. I think Cunha has that sort of 5-yard burst, but then would be able to hit at a higher speed, a top speed. I think it would be a player who is more able to create moments of separation through their body. I think it would be a player who can stretch the last line, doesn't want to constantly come to feet. I think it would be a player who platforms other players in a different way. And the more I sort of build that player, I just go, that just isn't Cunha. And it's not to say he's a brilliant player, not to say he couldn't help Martinelli thrive, or maybe he leaves Havertz more on the last line, or you could make it work. But it just feels a little bit like copium. It's just a little bit like if we signed him, kind of finding reasons why. Yeah, I'm crying. It just feels a little bit like copium to do that. I think what he does, and just taking a step back, I think the reason people want him is because he is so easy on the eye, and I fully get that. They want Cunha, number 10, Brazilian, flicks and tricks, scores goals from distance, and no doubt there is a lot of quality there. But when you actually look at what we need, I just don't see it. I'll be real. I just don't see it.
Yeah. I individually, I love the player. I don't love him for Arsenal. And I think that he could do things better than people on our team. Like, he walks in and is our best false nine. I'll end on this. For me, any team looking for a false nine, Cunha is the best value false nine on the market. For me, I'm looking at United. I think Liverpool would love him. Strikes me as a Liverpool forward.
And he'd cook there as well. So annoying.
Yeah, he'd do so well. He could be people's Jota, in a lot of ways. You could see that. I just think in the biggest things Arsenal take a distance on, and especially with Bukayo Saka out, you're looking at somebody that can definitely lead the tempo in the final third. So that's a positive. But we're looking for final action. Even with Bukayo Saka, we struggled. Now with Bukayo Saka out, final action becomes even more important in the final third. That's our leader in the final third. And that's just something that I think, for as much as he's over converting his shot percentage, I think his total overall package doesn't lend to him creating more consistent impact in different game states. So he'll do really well in certain games.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned game states as well, because a lot of the clips are
transition.
Wolves flowing through transition, where he does brilliantly and makes the right decision consistently. But we're a team who, you're right, there'll be some games, and for example, against mid blocks, is there a bit of a carry? Well, that's a question. Another thing we were kind of talking about on the Scouted is, he's the main man at Wolves. He's given so much freedom. Would he be given that at Arsenal? I don't know. Coming on to a couple of questions. One from Nash, who is at Nash Lawhon on X, who says his corner taking is superb. That's kind of the perfect summation of Cunha. It's like, do we need our corner taking to get an inch better for £60 million in January when we're trying to solve the issues that we're trying to solve? I don't know if we are. Had a couple on the Discord. Something from Arian actually about platforming him with an overlapping fullback on the left. I think that's something you maybe discussed in terms of where it could work. Fullback on the left, and if we were to do a sort of dual signing of Alphonso Davies and Matheus Cunha, because there is a conversation about, okay, without Saka, and also what is the next iteration of Arsenal. And when I look at the left back situation in the market, I'm looking at, you'll probably know better than me, but I'm looking at Nuno Mendes, I'm looking at Dorgu, I'm looking at Alphonso Davies. There's a couple of other guys. There's that Guedes guy, but I think he's right-sided at Sporting, isn't he? There just feels to me there's a lot of fullbacks
of that profile.
Who are like, okay, where are you going next? Is there a world where you sign a Davies and a Cunha, and that's we're constantly talking about how we reinvent our left-hand side. Is that a world you could see happening? Maybe not in January, but in the summer?
Football's a team sport. You don't look at individuals to suddenly click and boom, your team is solved. And those players that you do that are your Messis, are your Bukayo Sakas. They're the elite of the elite. So there's always a world where I can make it work. I think it's redundant It is linked to what the future of Arsenal is, though. Like when you talk about that pairing, that works brilliantly, but then it means your center forward's a channel runner. You're looking for an Osimhen, Samu Ajahoa. You're looking for that type of striker to make that thrive. You're looking for your left wing to basically be a 10. And that's because you've gone more double pivot. That's because you're committing more of a wing back, full back. You're making things change. So yeah, it can work. And that's no problem if that's where you see the team going. But even in those situations, I just think he would be a very brilliant, just below like the world-class options. Like he's just consistently 7 out of 10. Always will give you that. He doesn't have enough talent and quality to be one of the best in his position for me. But he will be, again, one of the best mid-table players, which he is. He already is that. Yeah. And he would be a very good floor raiser, definitely not a ceiling raiser. And he would do things, again, better than, Trossard, Jesus. He improves that. Like if you're just about improvement, does he improve the team? Yes. The margin of improvement, I would say, is here, whereas his fee is here. Like 60 million is you're doing more than just game states. You're you're one of the, like I would call, in my personal opinion, anything at 60 million pounds or more, you've got to be significant, because that carries with it over 150,000 K a week in wages.
Yeah. And I have to be fair and say, I talk about Mourinho. I think Mourinho is brilliant, but he's a 30 million pound midfielder. And so I'm not expecting him to come in and completely change our team. I'm expecting him to come in and add something and I think he will. I think he's adapted slowly, but I think he will. But I think on Cunha, at 60 million, I'm looking at that. And also, Ivan makes the point on X. He says it would almost certainly block an Isak signing due to asking prices, but what is blocking a cheaper deal like Semenyo or Osimhen? I suppose the question really there is around the pricing. And I think at 60 million, and to be honest, I think it'll be higher in January. I'll be real. Like I can't, would Wolves at 60 million? Let's put it this way. If Liverpool got Cunha for 60 million in January, which would kill me, I would be like, that's a good deal. So from an external perspective, I think it'd be more like 70 or 80. And at that point, you go, okay, well, the Kroenkes have just spent 80 million pounds on a forward signing. Can we then ask them to go out and spend 100 million pounds in the? I don't know. Let me
put it to you this way: Cunha is your versatile signing. Like in the 60 million range, I think Arsenal can do 2 forward signings. Let's put it this way: one, a really top marquee, and then a versatile depth piece. Mm-hmm. Cunha falls in your versatile depth piece, whose price is approaching the marquee.
Yeah,
not quite there, to be fair to him, but it's approaching it.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop things, but it definitely limits how big you can go. Like, I mean, it almost commits you to a Sesko. It commits you to a prospect as your other signing. And I don't think Cunha is enough of a needle mover to warrant that tag. Again, really good player. There's a lot of things I like about Cunha. And I think, people will look in the league at João Pedro and other people. I think Cunha is a better false 9. João Pedro, ironically, is a better runner, but loses a lot of the technique that Cunha excels in. And you're looking at 2 players that are brilliant in rebuilds. That's why I think he'd do great at United. I think he's what they think Xerxes would have done. I think he would, again, do really good at Liverpool. They're a team that are in transition, but also operate and attack in kind of these tight spaces. So he would really work well there. He could be a team's Jota. I just don't know if Arsenal are moving towards being Liverpool in attack. And maybe some people want to.
Yeah, maybe we should. But, I'm also thinking about Newcastle and Tottenham as well. I think they'd be a brilliant signing for them.
Yeah, Newcastle would be really good.
Let's finish there. Thank you all for being here. If you want to check out the full episode of Scouted where we look at the clips, you can do so from the link in the description, as we mentioned. We'll be doing lots more of these. We think we want to do one on Bino Gittins. But yeah, if there's anyone you want us to do, please leave us in the comments. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you want to join us on Patreon for this, plus data pods and youth pods and exclusive podcasts and ad-free stuff, you always can for just £3 a month or on YouTube memberships as well. So thank you all for being here. You've ruined my Cunha dream, but thank you, George.
Thank you, my good sir.
Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for keeping it Arsenal, even with a voice crack.